Blessed day, everyone. Thank you for visiting again our YouTube channel. This is the continuation of the Module 2. We are now in the Lesson 4 entitled Fire Extinguishment. For the disclaimer, all pictures and information shown in the slides are for general education purposes only. All information are provided in good faith, and I have no intention to own nor to claim it. Hence, credits to all authors. Let us talk about the fire extinguishment theory, or the theory of fire extinguishment. It says that to extinguish a fire, interrupt or eliminate the supply of any or all of the elements of fire. It says any, even a single element of the fire may extinguish the fire. Or you may also extinguish all. But it says even a single one, even it is just only one element is removed or interrupted, can extinguish the fire. Fire can be extinguished by reducing or lowering the temperature. That is already it is a form of cooling. Next is eliminating the fuel supply. That is removing the fuel. And by stopping the chemical chain reaction. That is, you will not allow that these elements will merge together that may result to have a chemical chain reaction. Because when these three elements, the fuel, the fire, the heat, and the oxygen merge together, it may give a chemical chain reaction. So do not let this happen. So how are you going to do that? You must at least remove any any of the elements. So that is what the fire extinguishment theory trying to emphasize to us. So there are four general methods of fire extinguishment. First is extinguishment by temperature reduction, and we call it as cooling. And when we say cooling, it is the removal of heat from the scene of fire, that is by application of water or by the application of the foam extinguisher. The cooling process uses an extinguishing agents whose primary characteristics is heat absorption. So what is the effect of the application of water or foam extinguisher, or when you use a method of cooling? The effect is it will lower down the temperature. It will lower down the temperature. Next, second method of fire extinguishment is the extinguishment by fuel removal. That is the separation. So it can be also known as starvation. Again, separation, or it may be called as, or it may be termed as starvation. Starvation or separation is the removal of fuel from the scene of fire, or elimination of the fuel supply or source, which may be done by cutting fuel supply, stopping the flow of liquid fuel, preventing the production of flammable gas, removing the solid fuel at the fire path, allowing the fire to burn until the fuel is consumed. I already gave you various examples. How can we remove fuel? Let's say, for example, there are four woods, and one of them is currently being burned, the first one. So you can try to put out the fire on the wood that is being currently burned, or you will separate the other remaining woods before it can be affected. I just mentioned the last, that you can eliminate fuel by means, which is the allowing the fire to burn until the fuel is consumed, only when there is no chance to put out the fire on the wood that is being currently fired, or when it may cause your life at risk. And the only way, and the only alternative, and the remaining way that you can do is to separate or to remove the other combustible materials that may supply fuel. Next method is the extinguishment by oxygen dilution. It is a smothering. And when we say smothering, it is the removal of oxygen from the scene of fire. It can be done if you use carbon dioxide or the fire extinguisher that is appropriate for smothering. Smothering is the reduction of oxygen concentration at the burning area. Aside from what I just mentioned, by using of the carbon dioxide, you can make use, or you can introduce inert gas. We all know that inert gas does not cause a fire, because if it causes fire, perhaps all of us are already dead, because air is composed of 1% inert gas. And you can do also by reducing of oxygen by separating oxygen from the fuel. Again, as mentioned a while back on the fire extinguishment theory, at least you can remove any of the element to extinguish the fire. And then the fourth one is the extinguishment by chemical inhibition, which is, we call it as chain breaking. That is to break the chain, or you will not allow that elements will merge together that will give a chemical chain reaction. So you can do this by using of the blanket that will not supply, or that will disallow penetration of oxygen, or by applying agents to interfere with chemical chain reaction of breaking down the products of combustion through heat and oxidation. You can make use of the, some extinguishment agents like dry chemical inhalant, interrupt the production of flame, resulting to rapid extinguishment of fire. This method is effective only in burning gas and fuel, as they cannot burn in smoldering mode of combustion. When when the three elements are merged together and about the chain reaction will take place, you have to interrupt it immediately before it will successfully form a fire. So there are methods of extinguishing by knowing the classes of fire. You can able to determine what type of fire extinguishing agent you can make use by determining first what classification of fire you are dealing with. Because if you will not determine first the what classification of fire you are dealing, you might there is a possibility that you might use a fire extinguishing agent that is not compatible or appropriate to deal with the classification of fire. And it if that will happen when it is not appropriate, there is a possibility that the fire becomes bigger and stronger. It will make the scenario worse. That could be an example of bite back. So class A, this is a recap of what we had discussed. Paper, wood, if you want to again know the classification of fire, please watch again my pre-recorded discussions pertaining classification of fire because it was clearly defined and explained. So class A, the method that you can make use is by coaling or blanketing. And what are the suitable extinguishers that you can make use? It is the water type, water bucket, or even sand bucket. Class B fires, the method that you can make use is starvation, is mothering, and even chain breaking. You can make use of these suitable fire extinguishers just like BCF, carbon dioxide, DCP, and as well as sand bucket. When we say suitable extinguishers, it does not only say that you will use a fire extinguisher. The term is suitable extinguisher. What method or what is suitable and appropriate that you can make use to extinguish the classification of fire. It does not say suitable fire extinguisher. So do not be confused. Next is the class C fire. The method that you can make use is the smoldering and starvation. And suitable extinguishers that you can make use is the BCF and carbon dioxide. Later on, we will discuss about this BCF and DCF and carbon dioxide extinguisher. Next is the class D fire. Special extinguishing agents marked specifically for metals. Okay, so you can make use of the smoldering. So you need to make use of the special type of DCP. Next is the class E fires. The method that you can make use is the smoldering and starvation. Make use of the carbon dioxide and the DCP. And the again, the class E fires, these are the combination of class A, class B, class C, and class D. Or there is a possibility that these four classification or class A, class B, class C, class D of fire may merge together or you may encounter that these are present. So these are, when we say class A, these are the combinations of the above classifications. And the class key, the method that you can make use is the through chain breaking. And what is the suitable extinguisher? It is the blanketing. Next, what is a portable fire extinguisher? When we say a portable fire extinguisher, you can able to carry and then use the fire extinguisher to extinguish the fire. So portable extinguishers are used as first line of fire protection or when the fire is still small. But when the fire is uh, is bigger, or when we say the fire cannot be extinguished by the use of fire extinguisher, then you better get out and you have to save your life, and then you need to wait for the arrival of the Bureau of Fire Protection personnel if you cannot do anything. But the only way that you can do while waiting, you have to ensure that all are safety. Properties, if possible, well, of course, first and foremost is the lives of the people. So, what is a fire extinguisher? It is a mechanical device usually made of metal containing chemicals, fuel, fluids, or gases for stopping fires. The means for application of its contents for the purpose of putting out fire, particularly small fire, before it propagates. I have already discussed the use of fire extinguisher and when to use the fire extinguisher. Again, when you want to learn more or learn more about the use of fire extinguisher, how it is being used, then again, please watch and subscribe our pre-recorded video. So what are those things that we have to remember when buying a fire extinguisher, or what are those things that we may consider when we purchase a fire extinguisher? So it says there that markings required on fire extinguishers. So these are following must be indicated, and what you must see when buying a fire extinguisher or purchasing a fire extinguisher. We have there the date of original filing, chemicals, contents, type of extinguisher, operating instruction is safe procedure in usage. We all know that in all products, we can say those instructions and what are those safety precautions and warnings that we must have to observe. Name and address of manufacturer and name and address of the dealer. So you have to ensure that these are present. If not, then you have to call the attention of the manager, or at least you may doubt that perhaps this is not the original one, or does not undergone the procedure or the authentication of the genuine authentication of the fire extinguisher. Next is the prohibited types of fire extinguishers. It states in the Rule 37, Section 104 of implementation of rules on regulation of PD 1185. It says, enumerates that all inverting types which make it necessary to invert the container before the extinguisher's operation. Soda acid extinguishers, stored pressure or cartridge operated foam solution unless an air aspirating nozzle is provided. And the fourth one, vaporizing liquid extinguishers using carbon tetrachloride or chlorobromidine in any concentration or formulation. That is why you need to look at on the what type of extinguisher, and as well as to consider the chemical contents of the fire extinguisher. If these are the following you have encountered, like I said, you may doubt or you may able to call the attention of the manager to authenticate its originality. Aside from this four, we have also number 5, vaporizing liquid extinguishers of less than 1 kilogram extinguishing agent. Next, glass bulb, grenade type or bomb type of vaporizing liquid extinguishers, which have to be thrown to the fire or are mounted on specific location in which operate upon the melting of a fusible ink. Link. And thematic spatial hazards, single station extinguishers with extinguishing capability of less than 4.5 cubic meters, and other types which may be prohibited. If you really need an assistance, because let's say for example you don't know much about fire extinguisher, you may call also the assistance of the Bureau of Fire Protection personnel. Okay, so that they may assist you where and what type of extinguisher you must buy, and they can give you actually those commendable fire extinguishers that you may purchase. Okay, so don't hesitate to ask. You must also learn. You must know to ask and learn pertaining those things that you are not aware or you are not knowledgeable before it's too late. Next, prohibited acts involving the operation of the fire extinguisher, which is also stated in the Rule 37, Section 108 of PD 1185. It states that removal of inspection tags attached to fire extinguishers do not let yourself to do that, or when you notice that the inspection tags are detached, please you may again doubt or you may report or you may call the attention of the manager or the owner of the store. Then refilling a discharge extinguisher with an extinguishing agent other than what the unit was designed to contain. Do not try or attempt to make use of other chemical contents to what is designed the design today for the fire extinguisher. Do not replace with another chemical content. Next is selling fire extinguishers not appropriate to the hazard. And the next one is the selling fire extinguisher prohibited by Rule 37, Section 104. And what are those prohibited acts involving the operation of the fire extinguishers? Take note of this. It is located in the same law, pursuant to Rule 37, or still under the Section 108. It is a continuation of the prohibited acts. Next is the selling defective or substandard extinguishers. Using or installing two or more thermatic spatial hazard vaporizing liquid units in rooms with volume greater than the normal and nominal capability of one unit. And the last one, installing pressure gauges and fire extinguishers which do not indicate the actual pressure of the interior of vessels, such as, but not limited to, use of uncalibrated gauges, not providing or blocking the connection between the gauge and the interior, or fixing the indicator or needle to indicate a certain pressure. So, what are the procedures for inspecting various types of extinguishers? First, check accessibility in proper location. It is not for decoration, but you must have to place to what is uh, appropriate and convenient in cases that a fire may occur based on your assessment. Then that is the now the your basis to what location you can place or install your fire extinguisher. Check for tag for date of last recharge or inspection. Check nozzle for obstruction and operations. Examine for corrosions. Determine it if full. Examine condition of hose and hose coupling. Check horns for cracks, dirt, or grease accumulations, and date of inspections and initials of inspectors. I want to show you a video, and I want you to watch, and I want also to give credit to the author.
signifying that there is no pressure. Check the tamper seal and pull pins to ensure they're in place. The tamper seal protects the pull pin from being accidentally pulled out. Check the body of the extinguisher for any dents, corrosion, or signs of leakage. Check the discharge hose for any dry rot or blockages at the nozzle. Unscrew the hose and inspect the opening for any signs of discharge. Also, check the screw-in section of the hose for any blockages. Turn the extinguisher upside down to plug the dry damper. This stops the extinguishing agent from packing into the vents. Finally, initial and date the month for inspection card and secure the extinguisher. Remember, all extinguishers are to be visually inspected monthly. This ensures a safe working environment.
Let us talk about fire extinguisher anatomy. So this is the discharge lever, or this um, the trigger of the fire extinguisher, that when you squeeze it, it will activate now, which it will release the chemical content inside of the fire extinguisher. And that is the discharge locking pin and as well as seal. Let me remind you again, I already mentioned this in the previous pre-recorded discussion, that it's not the folding the pin is the first one to do. That is, you need to remove first the seal before you can pull the pin. Next is this is the discharge hose, and that is the discharge nozzle where your one hand will hold this one, pinpointing the base of the fire. And that is the discharge orifice, and that is the pressure gauge, which is, however, it is not found on carbon dioxide extinguishers. Next, this is the carrying handle that will support when you squeeze the trigger. It is the safe part of the fire extinguisher when you are not using it to carry the fire extinguisher. And this is the data plate where the instructions or the chemical contents and so on and so forth, as we mentioned a while back, are placed or are written. Next, this is the body of the fire extinguisher. And the next one is this is the discharge valve that is inside the fire um, extinguisher, that will which has a function to carry out the chemical content inside the fire extinguisher. Next is the about the recommend what are those extinguishers that are recommended to be tested every 5 years. And these are the following: cartridge operated water extinguisher, stored water extinguishers, dry chemical with soldered brass stainless steel shells, and then the carbon dioxide. How about those type of extinguishers that must be tested every 12 years? These are the following: the halon 1211, which is a liquefied gas. When discharge leaves the nozzle in a stream that is about 85% liquid and 15% gas. This gives the agent a range of 9 to 15 feet and offers significant advantages in fighting fires in large aircraft cabins. Next is the Halon 1211, or the Halon uh, 1301. It is a liquid streaming agent. A gaseous flooding agent leave no residue. Again, it does not leave residue and are remarkably safe for human exposure. Even this is applied to extinguish a fire, it does not irritate to human or even does not irritate respiratory. Because halon 1301 are low toxicity, chemically stable compounds that, as long as they remain contained in cylinders, are easily recyclable. And then the third one is the cartridge operated dry powder. It is a fire extinguishers. It is a dry powder composed of a salt base plus a polymer for sealing and other additives to render it free flowing and cause heat cracking or crusting. It may be used on sodium, potassium alloy, and magnesium fires, which is the classification or class D fires. And the fourth one is the car stored pressure dry chemical with aluminum brazed brass or mold steel shells and cartridge operated dry chemical with mild steel shells. But take note of this that you must know the color code of our fire extinguisher. That a fire extinguisher that releases water, but this water contains a chemical content that containing a low pressure that will produce a low temperature that will actually reduce. It is a heat absorption which is applied for classification A. But this water extinguisher is not used for flammable liquids or even live live electrical equipment. Next is the dry powder fire extinguisher, which can be used for both classification A and classification B, likewise in classification as C. And it can be used also in live electrical equipment. So it can be used for classification A, classification B, C, and as well as a D. Next is the foam fire extinguisher. It can be used for both classification A and classification B. However, this is not advisable to use it for classification D like live electrical equipment. Next is the carbon dioxide, which is applicable for class B and as well as class C. However, you cannot make use of this in a confined space. And next is the wet chemical fire extinguisher. You can make use for both classification A and classification F. Next, let us talk about the kinds of fire extinguisher. First, we have foam fire extinguisher. It contains a sodium bicarbonate and a form of stabilizing agent in a larger compartment and a solution of aluminum sulfate in an inner cylinder, which is appropriate for class A and as well as class B. Let me show you again another video, and I want to give this again to I would like to give my credit to the author.
Fire extinguishers are painted signal red with a cream panel. Foam fire extinguishers are suitable for use in Class A fires like paper and wood, and Class B fires involving flammable liquids. To use a foam extinguisher, pull the safety tag to break the seal. Pull out the safety pin. Hold the handle of the discharge hose. Test the extinguisher to check if it works. The handle and the discharge hose. Test the extinguisher to check if it works. When using a foam extinguisher on a flammable liquid fire, you do not aim at the base of the fire. You aim at the back edge of the fire and allow the foam to form a blanket over the fire.
The foam extinguishers are most suited to extinguish liquid fires such as petrol or diesel and are more versatile than water jet extinguisher because they can also be used on solids such as wood and paper. That is why this extinguisher is applicable both classification A and classification B of fires. The foam extinguishers liquid fires by sealing, or the foam extinguishers liquid fires by sealing the surface of the liquid, preventing flammable vapor reaching the air and starving the fire of fuel. They are not suitable for use on free-flowing liquid fires. Next is the um, soda acid fire extinguisher. It is a small bottle of sulfuric acid that is suspended inside near the top in such a way that when the extinguisher is turned upside down, the acid mixes with sodium bicarbonate. So again, I'll give credit to the author of this video that I will now present to you.
Soda acid type fire extinguisher. In any commercial or industrial building, or even in our school building, you will find a red colored cylindrical or conical object with a small rubber hose attached to it hanging on the walls. These are the most widely used soda acid type fire extinguisher. Let us understand the construction of this fire extinguisher. These are simple in construction and simple to operate. The cylindrical portion of this fire extinguisher contains sodium bicarbonate. Concentrated sulfuric acid is sealed in a glass bottle and fixed to its knob. In case of fire, if you strike at the knob, the glass bottle breaks. Then the sulfuric acid reacts with sodium bicarbonate to generate carbon dioxide that is then directed on the fire. Since carbon dioxide does not support burning, this extinguishes the fire.
The soda acid fire extinguishers comprise of sodium bicarbonate and sulfuric acid, as we mentioned. This extinguisher is most efficient household fire extinguisher. It consists of a strong iron vessel with a side discharge nozzle. The iron vessel is filled with a sodium bicarbonate solution. So pertaining how this extinguisher works. The working principle of any fire extinguisher is based on the following three conditions: cooling, cooling the combustible material below its ignition temperature, cutting off the air supply, cooling the combustible material simultaneously while cutting off the air supply, and there is a solution of sodium bicarbonate in water in the fire extinguisher and sulfuric acid in a different bottle within it. The sulfuric acid is combined with sodium bicarbonate solution and creates an amount of carbon dioxide gas while the fire extinguisher is operated by turning the knob on it. Then the next extinguisher is the vaporizing liquid extinguisher. Vaporizing liquid extinguisher is a non-conducting liquid, generalized carbon tetrachloride or chlorobromethane. Operation is by manual pumping or using stored pressure. The stream of liquid that is expelled is vaporized by the heat of the fire and forms a smothering blanket, usually used in fires involving flammable liquids or live electrical equipment. This includes halon agents as well as halocarbon agents, and extinguish the fire by interrupting the chemical reaction triggering the fire. They are primarily used for Class B and Class C fires, but some larger ones can be used on Class A. Next is the carbon dioxide fire extinguisher, which is effective against burning liquids and fires in live electrical equipment, used mainly to put out Class C fires and also include uh, the Class B, the wherein the fire extinguishment with carbon dioxide is primarily for smothering. So again, this can be uh, generally this fire extinguisher is for Class E. However, have limited effect only on Class A and Class B as well as Class C. They use the function of removing oxygen and some heat. Okay, again, let me give credit to the author of this video that I am now presenting to you.
Do you know why carbon dioxide is used in fire extinguisher? The first reason is carbon dioxide acts on fires in two ways. The release of the gas under pressure has a cooling effect. This can be seen by the resulting mist cloud and ice particles. The gas also displaces the oxygen that's necessary to maintain combustion. The second reason is carbon dioxide doesn't conduct electricity, making it an ideal fire suppressant for use in computer rooms, electrical distribution stations, and other locations where a large amount of electricity may be present. The third reason is carbon dioxide is a colorless and, in normal concentrations, odorless gas. It doesn't react with burning materials, so it doesn't create any toxic or other byproducts when used to suppress a fire. It's therefore a clean gas, meaning it leaves no trace of its use when suppressing a fire. These are the reasons behind the uses of the carbon dioxide fire extinguisher.